welcome to the next in the 67 steps. Literally almost done here. This one is an important one. As you go through this challenge, you've been sticking with it. Congratulations. Stay with it all the way to the end. We're going to talk today about the Pierian spring and from whence cometh the pride, the self-fulfilling delusion. So I was actually, if you're on the live calls, I hope you're on those twice a month. I've got the 67-step twice a month live calls. Some of you are also in the business mentorship mini MBA program. We do the other 2 weeks a month, we do those. But today I was talking on this error of the dilettante. That's what I want to talk today, because you've been gaining knowledge, and one of the dangers of knowledge is shared in this poem. One of my favorite poems. I actually keep this on my wall. It's called The Pierian Spring, an essay. It's from Alexander Pope, the English writer. This is what it says. Let me see if I can find it here. A little learning is a dangerous thing. He says, drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring. A little learning is a dangerous thing. Drink deep or taste not the Pierian spring. In this poem, knowledge, wisdom, skills, expertise is represented by that spring. And what he was saying, and I'm sure you've run into this in your life, I've run into this, the error of the dilettante. The most dangerous person in the world is someone who just knows just enough to get themselves and you in trouble. I'm sure you have that friend when there's a political issue. You're eating and you see it you're at a cafe, you see it up on the TV, and it's the president or prime minister comes up, and your friend just starts talking about, oh, this is blah, 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 and whether it's economics or political theories. And maybe you're like me, you sit there and go, have you devoted your life to understanding the complexities of governing large groups of people? Because if not, why don't you sit down and become a curious person? You have just enough knowledge to be dangerous. You have drank not deeply from the Pierian spring. You've just sipped at it, and that's what a dilettante is. It's someone without expertise, but enough expertise. They read one book, one article, heard one commentary on TV, saw one documentary, and now they are going around speaking as if they've drank deeply. So you and I, we can't control those people. Of course, we can control who we're around, but we can control ourselves. So we don't want to talk, I don't want to talk today just bashing other people. I want to talk about myself, and hopefully you'll join along in this new approach to life. So it's laid out pretty simply here. We can just use Alexander Pope. We can use his advice, his guideline. Remember, this is all about going straight to the top. He's been remembered for 400 or 500 years. So there's a reason. It's hard to be remembered for hundreds of years. He was a sharp guy. So it's when you hear sharp people giving advice, listen. Doesn't mean they're infallible, but it's worth assuming they're right. So what do we need to do? Well, hopefully you're reading more. You need to limit the convictions that you have about what you've read so far. So let's say you've been reading books on health, wealth, love, and happiness. Make sure you don't go too far with it. Make sure you don't become a self-proclaimed expert yet. There will be a day when you will be an expert. And probably, if you're just going through this program for the first time, the day is not yet. On average, there's good science. If you read Bounce, the book I recommend, hopefully you've seen my book list on the navigation bar above. He talks about, in his studies of talented people, pro athletes and mathematicians and chess players, it takes about 14,000 hours to really drink deeply at the well of knowledge of whatever it is your destiny, your Eulerian destiny, as we talked about before. So that doesn't mean you can't speak and talk about it at all. It means the approach you must have, as I've talked about before. Two approaches in tone of voice. There's, that means, no, I know. That's your friend who, whenever you bring up the president or political, no, this is the economics of a recession. You hear this all the time when people, oh, inflation, the Federal Reserve, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do you know anything about the Federal Reserve? No, is the answer. Have you worked at the Federal Reserve? No, you read a couple books, you read a couple activist blogs. It's the same with alternative health. Now, I'm not pro completely conventional health, and I'm not pro complete alternative health. There's a time and place where both are very effective. I'm pro effectiveness. I'm pro accuracy. And I'm not an expert. When I broke my ankle, I went straight to the hospital. I didn't try to drink deeply or shallowly at the well of Pierian knowledge about fixing broken bones. I said, I'm not going to drink at all. I'm going to go straight to an expert. There's times when I'm sure you've done the same things, but this needs to be applied to every area of your life that you don't have a lot of expertise. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen, when people get hurt their back, the paramedics say, do not touch them. We have been trained to be able to get somebody who hurt their back, put them on whatever, it's a stretcher, and move them. There's a way they've gone through however many hours, 100 hours, 1,000 hours of training to deal with situations like that. That's the same when it comes to knowledge. When it comes to hard questions, what diet we should have, politically what we should follow, spiritually religion, same thing. When it comes to questions of social life, how do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with dating, romance, marriage, children? Don't become a dilettante. And now the next thing I want to talk about is listening to dilettantes. See, dilettantes are usually the loudest, right? It's usually, it's interesting. There's kind of an inverse curve. The more people know, the little quieter they get because they realize there's a lot to know. Somebody who spent 30 years trying to research how to be a good parent, they oftentimes are a little slower to pass judgment, a little more inquisitive. I always tell this story. George Karl, the famous basketball coach here in the U.S., came to my house not too long, a couple years ago. We've become friends. And this is not a dilettante. This is not a man who is a jack of all trades. He has spent, he told me since he's 14 years old to his current age at that time was about, I think, 60 or 61. He said, every year of my life I've been in the playoffs, either as a player in high school, college, pro basketball, or as a professional coach. So do the math on that, about 47 years. And he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think he's the number 5 most winning coach in the world. And I tell the story, but I want to repeat it if you've never heard me say it. That same morning before this coach came to my house, a girl, I won't say her name, on Facebook had posted, I just saw it on my wall. I try to stay away from the Facebook wall, but she had posted how she had started a new company. She was placing people with assistants or something like that, like a personal assistant. So you call her up, I need a personal assistant. So about a month before, I'd been talking to my friend. He said, Ty, never have a business where you do the service business. Do a middleman where you make a website. People can post that they want to be personal assistants and people can log in and find them. And he said, make a network, he called that. So kind of a middleman. So I wrote on her wall, I was like, oh, that's cool. You started that. You should consider doing a network. About an hour later, I look at my inbox. The meanest email I've ever, she's just blasting me. How dare you embarrass me on my Facebook wall and, not be optimistic about my idea and da-da-da. And by the way, the guy who told me this made about $50 to $100 million before he was 26 or 27. So it was good advice I gave her from someone else. I wrote her back. I said, I wasn't trying to offend you. That's literally the sentence I said. Oh, you should try it as a network, not just a service. Maybe I should have been more sensitive. I don't know. That's not the point of this story. The point of the story is that was in the morning, and she just blocked me from Facebook. Okay, that's fine. That night, George Karl walks in my house. Won, 1,000 pro basketball games. Been, every sign of being one of the great and knowledgeable people about professional sports is in my house, and we go to dinner at the W Hotel, and when we're in the limousine, his limousine, I said to him, I said, hey, Coach, I don't want to bother you. I love basketball. He goes, no, Ty, let's talk basketball. And I was at that W Hotel, and he literally sat there and started asking me questions. Hey, do you think we should try to trade for Pau Gasol? Do you think this player on my team? What do you think of the Lakers? And I just remember thinking this morning, this is a girl that's never done anything entrepreneurial. I give her advice. She's a dilettante. She had not gone and drank deeply from the Pierian well. She didn't want to hear it from anybody. But yet George Carl, who's got 47 years in, see, even though he was an expert, he had the attitude of, tell me more. And that's what's going to build your expertise. So I want you to be very, very careful in life, and especially right now, because you've learned things over this 67-step course that gives you advantages that other people don't have. I want you to stay humble with that. I want you to put it in practice in your life. I don't want you to just become a preacher and a teacher of this stuff, because it's not enough for you to just regurgitate. You see, even for myself, I was careful to not build this program till I had a lot of hours in entrepreneurialism and the things we've been talking about. I put in a lot more than 14,000 hours before I created this program. And I still don't have all the answers or even close to them. So don't become a teacher right now. Don't become a lecturer. Keep your attitude, really? Drink more and more from that well, deeper and deeper. Look for counter advice, counter arguments to everything you believe now. If you're a vegan, drink deeply at the well of understanding diets and read what paleo people. If you're paleo, drink deeply at the well, which means learning from vegetarians and vegans. Doesn't mean you have to change, but if you do need to change, then you change. Who cares? One great line in that book, Made in America, about Sam Walton, became the wealthiest man in modern history. His friend said when he died, he was talking about Sam Walton, he said, I've never met a man, or a human for that matter, he said, less worried about being wrong. He said when he realizes he's wrong, he just moves on. He goes, I was wrong. Just moves on. That's what made him so successful. That is the secret. Of course, there's many secrets, but that's one of the fundamental secrets. So for you, it's very important that you not get attached to any ideas, that you not consider yourself an expert in health, wealth, love, and happiness. If you got 3 years in, that's still not enough. 14,000 hours, you're talking 7, 10, 12 years in. Now, it doesn't mean you can't make big advances today. This program isn't about your 12-year program goals. It's about your goals today, but I just want you to say, I don't want to be creating and be participating in a movement of dilettantes, people who know just enough to be dangerous. Because this is that self-confirming delusion that I was talking about. We tend to look for evidence that proves our own point. That's what a dilettante does. Because a dilettante doesn't drink deeply, they don't take the time to really get the whole picture. Somebody in love with only alternative medicine, sure, that's the way. They don't look deeply and look at the advances in modern medicine. And a doctor sometimes, they can have massive expertise, but they could be a dilettante about nutrition and not know enough. So all of us are susceptible to this. We don't want to self-fulfill, meaning if we don't look for disconfirming evidence, we will become self-fulfilling, delusional human beings. We'll go, well, I read that president this, president that, they did that. I read that the government, it's like when people talk about sure that capitalism is bad or sure that socialism is bad. It's not that simple. That's why I said there's this inverse curve or ratio between the amount someone actually knows and the likelihood they're going to start pontificating and preaching. Don't let that be you. I want you to come through this program focused on improving your instincts, your mindset. Some of you, you may have started with your compass turned around. Whenever you should be going left, you're going right. You're screwy, and that's hopefully, for me, that's how I was. And as I let these concepts from these people like Alexander Pope or Sam Walton, all these people we've been talking through this challenge, as their ideas sunk into my brain, I began to see those big changes that I hope you're experiencing. I'm getting emails all the time. Someone told me they just almost committed suicide before they found this program and how it's revolutionized their life. People, it's really great. Thank you so much. Make sure you're in that private Facebook group, meeting your future friends, allies, business partners, maybe girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. All those things happen when you're around the right people. But again, I already see this tendency creeping in, and that's why I put this specific step I put towards the end, because at the beginning, our dangers are of coming in this program. Your danger is, not being reliable and not sticking with things. But now you've proven you can stick to things. You've proven that you can put in the effort it takes to rewire your brain. But now the danger becomes a new danger. It's like physics. Every action creates an opposite and equal reaction. So you may have felt like you didn't know much about success, and that's not a good place to be. But now we're on the other side, where you may feel like you know everything about success. It's not that simple. As I said, it's quicker than you think, but you still need to put in the time. So what I want to focus on now is what are things that you can be doubling down, as you've learned a lot, to avoid being a know-it-all right now. There will be a day you'll be a know-it-all in a positive connotation. You'll actually know a lot. My grandfather was like that. He knew a lot, but he had put in, 60 years around some of the great thinkers. He had a mentor when he was 5, a famous zoologist. And he had put in, he had earned his chops, as they say. He had the scars to prove it. As I talked about, if you're in a trench in warfare and you got a new person coming to help you, you don't want somebody dropping in that trench that's never held a gun before. You want somebody with a couple scars. Maybe they lost a finger. Maybe they have bullet wounds. You want those people. And those people are not dilettantes. They put in the time. They've earned it. So right now, I want you to get in the mode. Now I've got the knowledge in my head. I've got new habits. But now that's just, this program is really about the winter of your life. That's why this program, by the way, as you know, doesn't end at the end of 67 steps, because you must continue to, once 67 days is over, you form new habits. You're going up, right? So 67 days to form a habit. Now this program continues. You'll notice there's the premium book summaries that I do, which continually getting ideas. Now, these are not available. I do some, short summaries available on my YouTube, but you're getting the full ones. They don't get that. You've committed to a program. That's one of the things you get here as a premium member. The other thing you get that's even more important in a certain way, twice a month. I hope you've been showing up on these live calls. I put in the time. We're going through books. You're talking to me. We're talking one-on-one. And that will make all the difference in the world in terms of changes. So right now we're going into new mode. Knowledge. We still got, a little bit more in the 67-step program, or the phase 1. Now we're going to be going into phase 2. Not quite yet. Still got a couple more, but here's what I want you to remember in phase 2. Phase 2 is now you're going to take what's in your brain more and more and make results tangibly happen. So you cannot just say, well, I know a lot about stuff. You can say, it's working in my life. Things are changing. I'm doing bigger and bigger things in health, wealth, love, and happiness. Not just in one, but in all 4. So, question for you. What is an example, and be brutally honest, no delusion here, of something you've acted like you know a lot about? What subject? For some of you it's health, some of you it's wealth, some of you it's love, some of it's business, some of it's politics, some of it's medicine. What is your thing? We all have them. I always tell everybody, everybody's bourgeois about something. Everybody's bourgeois. Every person that works for me, they have their one thing. They could be somebody who's never done anything with their life. There's one thing. It could be cigars, hats, clothing. You always see it. You see people's, you're going to ask me about that? Oh, well, I know a lot about that. So sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's earned. You got to earn it. Most people are delusional. They didn't earn it. So what's your thing that you haven't earned? You don't have your 14,000 hours, but you've been acting like you're an expert. What's that industry? Write about that below, okay, to close out this lesson. Number 2, what can you do? What specific subject now that you've begun to drink a little bit from this Pierian well, but you're not drinking deeply. What is something you're committed to drinking deeply? Be as specific as possible. Number 3 comment below to close this out is, what are you going to start doing to implement as we go from this phase 1 into phase 2? How are you going to implement this stuff? One practical thing. It could be lifting more weights. It can be starting your own business, like partnering with somebody in business, dating a better quality person, making a new friend, reviving an old friendship, focusing on gratitude, getting a little more optimistic, getting rid of sloth, laziness, getting rid of unreliability. What's your thing that you're going to start making happen so that you can put in your 14,000 hours? Now, you might not put 14,000 hours into one specific, you're not going to lift 14,000 hours of weights this year. You're not going to, 14,000, you're not going to have a multiple of 14,000, or I should say you're not going to put in 14,000 hours necessarily in a new venture. Maybe you're not ready for it. But what are you going to start on the path of drinking very deeply? So there will be a day when you will be called upon and you can stand up, rise up, and speak not as a dilettante, but as a true expert, as somebody who is drinking very deeply. I want that deep. This is what I think Stephen Johnson, one of the great authors out there right now, he wrote Where Good Ideas Come From. I think it's him that calls it deep domain expertise, where you know stuff. And by the way, when it comes to your finances, people who know a lot, they always make a lot of money. Even if they're an employee, not a self-employed, they make money because they're irreplaceable, because the world is full of people who are shallowly understanding subjects. That's how much they've drank of that knowledge. Just a little sip. No sipping. Now, you might need to take the information slowly, but slowly and steady. Step by step, you get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts, but you build discipline by preparing for the fast spurts. That's what Charlie Munger says. Go to bed a little wiser than you were when you woke up. All right? And he says, at the end of the day, if you live long enough, you and most of us will get what we deserve. Deserve to be considered an expert in whatever field is yours. Okay? Then it won't be the blind leading the blind. You will actually be able to help people, and you will be rewarded in all ways, health-wise, wealth-wise, socially, and certainly in fulfillment. So answer those 3 questions, and let's keep going. Let's close this thing out. All right? See you soon.